Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Tanchjim Space, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Tanchjim for providing the space for a review. To greatly appreciate it. Tanchjim, you rock. Alright, so the Tanchjim Space. This will set you back $90 from your bank account. It is a USB-C DAC amp dongle, and it uses dual DAC chip setup, the Cirrus Logic CS43131. Frequency response of 6 Hz to 85 kHz, just in case you have bat ears. And then it has dynamic range of 132 decibels, THD and N of 0.00017%, output power of 230 milliwatts at 32 ohms. It has a high-low gain switch, and it is compatible with Mac, iOS, Windows, and Android. In order to use it with the iOS and Mac devices, you may need a different adapter than is included. It also is capable of doing upwards of 32768 and DSD 256. There is no MQA with the Space. Space comes in this very white box. You get a little picture, some branding, some specs. On the inside, all you get is some paperwork and the device, along with the separate USB-C cable and the adapter. So the adapter is nothing special, just a typical USB-C to USB adapter. And then the cable is very short, USB-C to USB-C. And then you get your little Space. This thing is small. Got this little window so you can see the internals. It's cute. I like it. It's light. Has some branding here. It says Tanchjim. You got 2 volume buttons, and then if you press them down at the same time, it activates the high-low gain. And then on the bottom, you have 4.4 balanced and 3.5 single-ended. Very small, very cute. Compare it to a couple other dongles. You have the Hiby FC4, and as you can see here, the Hiby FC4 is just a lot longer. They're about the same thickness and about the same width. The FC4 is also a lot heavier. You have the Hidizs XO. The XO is larger in all ways. It's longer, wider, and also a little bit thicker. And then the Hiby FC3. The Hiby FC3 is skinnier. They're almost the same length. The FC3 is just slightly longer. And then they're about the same height. The Space may be just a little bit taller. The Space is well built. It has that window that you can see the internals. Unfortunately, the LED light only lights up when you plug it in. It doesn't stay lit and doesn't show different bit rates. That would have been cool. And then you have a little bit of a rise and no sharp edges. It's nicely built, feels comfortable, looks nice and light, and feels durable. Obviously wouldn't drop it on the pavement and drive over it with a vehicle, but it should, bounce around in a bag and just be fine. Shouldn't have any issues there. The Tanchjim Space drives pretty much any IEM. I had no issues with some of the harder to drive planars or anything like that. Headphones didn't do as well. It will drive some headphones, but it's more of the easier to drive headphones. So more demanding stuff like planars and things like that, it might struggle a little bit. It'll get them to volume, but it won't really drive them to their sonic potential. Overall, though, it has plenty of juice for the IEMs that you're going to use. How does the Tanchjim Space sound? I like the sound of the Tanchjim Space. It has a slightly U-shaped sound. And it seems weird to be describing a dongle as U-shaped, but it puts more of an emphasis on the bass and on the treble than it does the mids. The bass has nice authority, it has nice punch and slam, and it'll really kind of drive things home. It has nice power to it. It stays well controlled, has good details, nice resolution, and the tone and timbre sounds accurate. The mids. The mids are slightly behind the bass. The bass just has this little bit extra emphasis, and the mids are kind of left behind just a little bit. Now, the mids have nice tone and timbre, and they have decent details and resolution, but their presentation is a little bit thinner and isn't quite as energetic as the bass. And so they just kind of sound a little, not boring, but not as emphasized and not as engaging as the bass and as the treble. I like the sound of the mids. I just wish that they had a little bit more input into the overall picture that's being presented. And then the treble. The treble is slightly elevated like the bass, and so it has a little bit more emphasis. It's got some sparkle and energy. It could be a little bit too much treble for treble sensitive, but I find it to be well controlled. It has nice extension into the uppers, and overall I just find that the Space has a fun sound signature, but I just wish it had a little bit more emphasis in the mids. Soundstage of the Space is nice. It has a nice wide stage. It's spacious, and it has a good amount of depth and a nice amount of layering. You can really read a stage and dissect a stage. Imaging is very good. It tracks things across. It's not the most precise and accurate in placement, but you'll know that it's in the neighborhood. And it does a good job with gaming and movies and with music also. And I find that overall it's just a very fun and immersive soundstage that does a really well job of portraying what you're hearing. Tone and timbre. The tone and timbre of the Space is very nice. I do find it's a little bit too tipped in the treble, and that can throw things off at times. Things can get a little bit of sibilance in the lower treble regions and in the upper mids. At times it can be just a little bit much there, but for the most part it sounds pretty straight on as far as how instruments should sound, and the way that vocalists are reproduced sounds very true and accurate, and it sounds very natural. Detail retrieval and resolution is good. I do find that the details are retrieved are good. The resolution could be slightly better, especially in the uppers. At times it can have a little bit of a harshness to it and a little bit of grittiness, but for the most part it does a very good job with details and resolution. So I like the Space. I think it's a very good dongle, especially at its price point, and it has plenty of power, either single-ended or balanced. How does it compare to a couple other dongles? The Hiby FC3. The Hiby FC3 is a little bit more neutral and a little more analytical. I do find that the FC3 is slightly more detailed and a little bit better resolving, but it is not as pleasurable and as fun sounding. It's a little bit more neutral, analytical leaning, and can sound a little unmusical comparing to the more fun sound of the Space. The Hidizs XO. The XO has better note weight, has slightly better tone and timbre, and is just a little bit more pleasurable, has a more full sound, and does better with detail retrieval and resolution, but its soundstage is slightly smaller and can sound a little bit too close at times in its presentation. And then the Hiby FC4. The Hiby FC4 has more power and has a more full and natural sound. It does have better tone and timbre and is better detailed and better resolving. Also, the soundstage is a little bit better in placement and is a little bit more accurate. Also has better depth and about similar size width. So overall, I like the Space, and I've used it quite regularly, and highly recommend it. It's a very fun and different type of listen. It's not a true reference sound or neutral sound. That would be up to the FC3 and FC4. But overall, it's a very fun and engaging listen. This has been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for listening and watching, and I will catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen is subscription links, notification bells, and all kinds of other things. So check those off if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when the next Honest Audiophile video is uploaded. And check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel, all that kind of stuff is down below. Speaking of supporting the channel, thank you very much to all of my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. It's much appreciated, all that you give to the channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there are all kinds of ways that you can do that through PayPal, Venmo, and you can also give one-time gifts or monthly subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Check those out down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.